The Pro Camera app by Moment is a manual camera app that will give you the basic pro-level controls to your settings, like your ISO, shutter speed, and white balance. While you watch this video, I encourage you to open the app up on your phone and try and follow along. Once you install and open the app, this is what the interface looks like. Not all of the settings will rotate with your phone when you move it into landscape or horizontal mode. The setting menu will only work in vertical or portrait mode. On the left, you'll see a lightning bolt, and this will turn on the light for the camera, so just don't mess with that. Above that is the color profile options. I recommend leaving this at default. You may be familiar with a flat or log picture profile, but I do not think that this app films in true log because it doesn't let you select 8-bit or 10-bit color depth, and I would only recommend shooting log in 10-bit. Above that is the option to select your resolution. I recommend 4K. Above that is your frame rate, and I like to shoot in 24 frames per second, but go with 30 or 60 if you prefer. My iPhone only lets me film at 120 frames per second or higher if I switch to HD. Next to that, you'll see audio levels, and to adjust this, go ahead and hit the small gear icon on the bottom right of the screen to bring up the settings. Scroll down to your audio settings, and I like to keep the sample rate at 48 kilohertz, bit depth at 24 bit, and audio channels set to stereo, and you have the option to select which mic you'd like to record with. I'll select the front mic, but we'll be using a wireless lav to record our audio. X out of the settings menu on the top left to get back to the camera. If you plug a dongle adapter, this will allow you to plug in a wired lav or wireless microphone system. Just make sure that you're using a TRRS cable, and the side with the 3 rings is going into the adapter that is going into the phone. You want to test your mic by tapping or rubbing on the mic, and look to see if your audio levels are jumping on the screen. This will ensure that the audio is coming from the mic in your hand and not the mic on the phone. You want your audio levels to hit between -6 and -12. Above the audio levels meter, there's an option to adjust your mic gain. Select that and use the slider to raise or lower your audio levels as you talk into your mic. Tap the mic gain button above the level meters to lock that in. Below the audio level meters, there's an option to select the headset. This option only works if you unplug the dongle from the phone and plug in a connected headset and listen to the playback of a video in the gallery. This slider lets you adjust the levels of the audio in your headphones as you watch the video clips. This does not edit your audio levels. It's just there for playback in your headphones. Part of this video is one of over 80 video lessons in my cooking creators course. I'll teach you everything there is to know about how to plan, film, and edit cooking videos with just your smartphone. There's also modules teaching social media strategy to grow a following, and a module talking about ways to monetize your recipes and get brand deals. I'll have a link in the description if you're interested, and if you stay till the end of this video, I'll have a discount code on the screen that can save you an additional 20% off. On the top right, there's a circle with a line through it. Moment makes a variety of lenses that can be mounted onto the phone, and you can use this part of the app to select which lens you're going to use on the camera. The icon next to that with the arrows will switch the camera to the selfie camera on the front of the phone. And next to that are the options to switch between the 3 cameras on the iPhone 14 Pro. I recommend only using these options to zoom in or out when filming. You can also pinch to zoom in or out, but I do not recommend doing this because it's going to be a digital zoom and lower the quality of your videos. Stick with the 3 lens options. You can always fine-tune your composition and framing when you edit. That will give you the best image quality compared to pinching or zooming in or out on your iPhone. On the right bottom of the screen is the option to drag your finger up or down to change your shutter speed. Once you select the shutter speed, it will lock with the small little dot below the shutter speed you choose. Above that is your ISO, and just like the shutter speed, you can drag your finger to make the selection. As a rule of thumb, you do want your ISO to be as low as possible. The higher the ISO, the more image noise that you're going to see in your video. So the lower the ISO, the cleaner your image. Next to that is EV, which is an easy way to adjust your exposure. When you adjust this, it's going to mess with both your shutter and ISO. I suggest leaving this alone and only adjusting your ISO and shutter speed individually. Above that is your focus. Drag that up or down to manually adjust your focus. Once you let it go, the focus will lock. To unlock it, just tap the screen. And above that is your white balance. It's set to AWB, which stands for auto white balance. You do not want to shoot in auto white balance, so you can scroll up or down to select a specific Kelvin color temperature. I have a whole video lesson dedicated to white balance, and you should definitely watch that if you want your cooking videos to have beautiful, true-to-life colors. The light bulbs in my kitchen and light kit are 5000 Kelvin, so I select 5000 Kelvin on the white balance settings. When it comes to focusing, you simply touch anywhere on the screen and the camera will only focus on that specific area. You can even move it around the screen and it will change focus to exactly where you place it. It will disappear after a few seconds, but it will still only focus on that specific area. So if I move something closer to the lens of the camera, it still won't focus on it until I move it to the area that I pressed on the screen and last left the circle. If you press and hold the focus circle, this will lock the focus exactly where it's at. So even if I move something in or out around that area, the focus will not shift at all. If you double tap the focus circle, it will separate the focus and exposure circle. Wherever you place the exposure circle with the sun on the screen, the camera will automatically adjust its exposure for that specific area. To toggle this off, you need to go back and select a shutter speed or ISO. On the top right, there is a little camera, and this gives you the option to toggle between photo, video, and other modes. Stick to video mode. Below that is the option to select or create presets so that you don't have to set this up all over again every time you open the app. And below that is the red record button. Hit it once to record, and then again to stop. Below that is a gear icon, which is the settings menu. I'll dive into that in a second. And below that is your camera roll and all the videos and photos on your phone. Go ahead and hit that small gear icon on the bottom right of your screen to bring up the menu settings. I like to disable all announcements. Below that, I like to enable the grid. I recommend using the rule of thirds grid to help you with composing your shots, especially if you want to be able to film horizontal and later crop those to make vertical videos for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. I'll talk more about that in another video lesson. Grid level haptics is a great tool to have to help make sure that your horizon lines in your shot are straight. You'll see a crosshair in the middle of the camera, and if the phone is tilted to the side, the lines will start to move. When the camera is perfectly straight, they will light up. This also works with the tilt of your camera to make sure that you're pointing directly straight. In the exposure and focus section, you can toggle on focus peaking if you like. This only works with manual focus, but when you slide your focus up or down, it'll put a green outline around what's in focus in the shot. The histogram on the bottom right of the screen is really helpful with perfecting your image exposure. The far left of the graph is pure black, and the far right of the graph is pure white. Very generally speaking, you want everything or this wave to be balanced in the center of the graph. If your image is underexposed, you'll notice it's all to the left of the graph. And if it's way to the right, then it's going to be overexposed. There are some exceptions to this rule, but it really depends on what's framed within your shot. I got a link to a video below this lesson that better explains how a histogram works. Again, generally speaking, I like to somewhat center everything in the graph, and then I'll just take a look and see if anything in my image is still over or underexposed, and then adjust my exposure to my liking. Highlight clipping will add a red and white zebra pattern to anything that's overexposed in your shot. Generally speaking, you do not want anything that is going to be the main focus of your shot to have these red lines on them, or it's going to be overexposed. Shadow clipping is the same thing, but for the dark spots of your shots. And if they are underexposed, anything underexposed will have blue lines. Let's skip the photo settings, and below that are our video settings. For video format, I like to select H.264 codec. Stabilization can be on or off. It doesn't matter if you're using a tripod. Definitely have it on if you plan to shoot any handheld shots. I have NTSC for frame rates, and bitrate is set to high for 100 megabits per second. RGB histogram and waveforms are tools to help with monitoring your exposure, and I spoke about that earlier. And don't worry about the rest of the settings below. But that's it for this lesson, and I will catch you in the next one.